hello everyone. Thank you for joining the call. I'm just going to start with introducing myself. And since we're a small group, I'm going to request you to then introduce yourself to everyone else on the call. So you can just unmute yourself and answer the two question prompts and anything else you'd like to wish to share. Okay, so let's begin. My name is Hafsa. I was a 2016 fellow in Delhi, after which I worked with the Hyderabad Program Team, and I'm currently working with the Training and Impact Team. I'm leading the Transformation Impact Journey, or TIJ, as known more commonly. I'm leading that project for Teach for India right now. What we hope to do with these calls is pick one of the classrooms that we studied at TIJ and help everyone on the call unpack these classrooms on this call. So that's what we're going to do. Can we have everyone on the call just start by introducing yourself, your name, your city, and anything you want to take away from this call? Am I audible? Can everybody hear me? And chat in yes or no. Okay. Everyone else, let's take a minute to quickly introduce ourselves and then we can continue. Kiran.
Hi.
Yes, Kiran, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Kiran. I'm from Hyderabad. I'm from 2019 cohort. I'm really hopeful and I'm actually want to know how they have been so consistent in the efforts that they were doing in the class. And because sometimes when we are really very consistent, students also get bored. So how can we bring, different and interesting strategies for the students to make it really fun? Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Pratyay. I am a 2019 fellow. I am currently working in Delhi. So what I'm really looking from this space is something which like a top of mind thought which I have right now is like I really want to know how the voice of expression, because I heard that the session will be about voice of expression, uh, taking learnings back from the particular classroom. So I really want to know how voice of expression can be established inside the classroom and how it was done in Amalya's and Ravela's classroom. So what I'm looking for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. Let's get started. Welcome to the first webinar. I'm just going to take a minute to walk you through what will happen on this call today. We will start by exploring what are the student outcomes of this classroom, and then for each student outcome we will identify what the teachers did to enable these outcomes. Here we will specifically in this call look at artifacts, student artifacts and teacher artifacts from this classroom, and hopefully if these are some of the outcomes that you are also working towards in your classroom, you will be able to identify specific actions and next steps that you can then adapt your own classroom. That is essentially going to be the flow of the call today. Like I said, we'll be exploring a lot of real artifacts from the students and teachers of this classroom. So we're really excited to walk you through this call today. Before I start, I just also want to take a minute to acknowledge some of the unrest all of us are feeling in the country right now. And I hope you are doing everything you can to take care of yourself and the people around you. If anybody wants to have a conversation about any of these things, please feel free to reach out to me after the call. We'd love to talk about that later. On that note, I'm going to begin. I'm going to start us off by watching, and we're going to start off by watching a video that will help you understand the lens with which we view classrooms at TIJ. It's called the Bright Spot Theory. It's a quick 3-minute video that will help you identify how we view classrooms at this learning group, what lens we will be operating with even on this call. Play all of us a video. Maybe a minute. Sorry, I think you can't hear the audio of the video. Just give me a second.
So let's say your kid comes home one day and shows you a report card that looks a little something like this. Anything jump out at you? Well, if you're like most parents, really all you see when you look at this is this. This is a thought experiment from the...
Can you hear the video when I'm playing it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's audible.
Marcus
Yeah.
Buckingham. This is a thought experiment from the author Marcus Buckingham. And I think what it shows us is that we all tend to focus on problems rather than strengths. It would be the rare parent indeed that would look at this report card and say, wow, honey, you've got such a strength in English. How can we make more of that?
Can you please mute your mic while
Study. Be the rare parent indeed that would look at this report card and say, wow, honey, you've got such a strength in English. How can we make more of that? We all use our powers of analysis primarily to study what isn't working rather than to study what is working. So think about all the times in your lives when you've been on phone calls with friends and they've been agonizing about the problems in their relationships, and the many, many flaws of their partners. But have you ever been on a single call where the person was obsessing about why things were working so well, with an eye towards doing more of that in the future? Or as parents, we really want to get to the bottom of why our kids got an F, so we can correct it. But we don't obsess about why our kids got an A. What were they doing differently in that class than in the others? Most of the time, this problem-solving focus serves us very well. If you're a manager and things are working pretty well across the board except for one trouble spot, by all means, solve that problem. But there's one situation in life where this backfires on us, and that's in times of change. Because in times of change, our report cards don't look near flawless. Our report cards look pretty mixed. There's a lot of stuff that's not working very well. There's a lot of stuff that may be failing outright. And if we allow ourselves to slip into problem-solving focus in that time, that's a recipe for inaction, for paralysis. There's simply too many problems to be solved. In times of change, what we need to do instead is to focus on the bright spots, the early glimmers that something is working right. And once we find those bright spots, our mission is to study them and to clone them. So let's say at work you started a new sales process 6 months ago, and the results so far have been a little bit mixed. You've had 2 reps that have doubled their sales, and 6 more that have basically stayed at the same sales level, and then a couple of more that have slipped, and 3 that have just bottomed out. And in fact, they're threatening to quit if you don't go back to the old sales process. So what do you do? As a manager, where do you spend your time? Well, most managers would slip into problem-solving mode, and they'd spend most of their time dealing with those 3 belly achers at the bottom. Because we would figure that those 2 superstars at the top, well, they can take care of themselves. But this is exactly backward. We should be spending our time figuring out what these 2 reps are doing differently. What's making them so successful? Maybe they've cooked up their own sales literature. Maybe they've figured out a better way to approach customers. But regardless, if we understand what's making them succeed, then we can potentially spread those practices around and make everybody better. So as a manager, are you getting to spend enough of your time scaling and cloning what is working today? Or are you spending most of your time having to put out fires and deal with what's not working? If you want to learn more about this bright spot philosophy and how to use it, come.
As I move back to the presentation, I'm going to request everyone to take a few minutes and just think about how is this approach different, and how is this applicable to the work we do in our classrooms. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about how this bright spots theory will look like in the work that we do, and then we'll come back. You can type in your responses. If typed in the question in the chat box, would love to hear a few responses. Yes, Kiran. Thank you so much for sharing. That's exactly the philosophy that we try and work with at TIJ, and that's the same philosophy that we will also be as we look at Amalya Ravela's classroom today. In no classroom across the world, and even more so ours, will we find things that are, we will always find things that are breaking down and challenges that we are facing. However, with the bright spots, we try and identify what is working and think about how we can replicate that. And that is what that is the lens that I'm going to request all of us to hold as we view and study this classroom as well. It's essentially the bright spots theory. A lot of more has been written about this, but this is in a nutshell what you need to know as we explore this class. All right. So next, what we're going to do is I'm going to share two student artifacts. I'm going to share two links in the chat box. I want you to take 5 minutes and explore these student artifacts and identify what is the student outcome you can see as you view these artifacts. Sharing two links in the chat box. These are Google Drive links. So just go explore these student artifacts and think about what is the student outcome you can see as you are viewing these two artifacts. Okay, the two artifacts are in your chat box. Let's take 5 minutes. So we'll come back at 5:50. Let's take 5 minutes to study these two artifacts and identify what is the student outcome that you can see as you are viewing these two artifacts. 5 minutes. Thank you.
Can you quickly share?
Yes, please go ahead.
So what I understood from the first artifact, which was like describing about the RC levels. So what we have seen, what I have understood, that there is a major shift within, I think, 10 or 11 months, more than 1 year time. There is a huge shift on RC levels, and when we saw the writing samples, what we actually see, a lot of students are actually, they're articulating their thoughts. They're able to write what they want to write. In the first, like, I think, in 2017 wala photos, like, there were, like, even they were having like trouble in making sentences, but in the latter part, in the next photos, we see that they're articulating their thoughts very well, and their sentences are mostly well constructed. Yeah, those are the shifts which we can see in the outcomes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. Anybody else want to share your reflections? You can type it in, or just unmute yourself and share with the entire group. Thanks, Mroy. Yes. So, like, both of, like, Priti and Mrinmoy have shared, we are seeing essentially a lot of growth in literacy in this classroom. Students are not only reading and comprehending better than they were a year ago, there's also a lot of improvement in articulation of thought, especially written from the artifacts um, that we are exploring. Can I request, Kiran, do you want to just read the fellow reflection on the slide for us, please?
Sure. A year and a half ago, only a handful of students were the right side is not visible, sorry. Yes, were able to read with a class average of 0.2 at beginning of the year. 60% of our students across reading levels have made more than 2 years of growth in reading comprehension in the past year and a half, or from the time they joined us. A further 76% of students have made more than 1.5 years of growth.
Okay, so now that we've identified a student outcome of this classroom, that is essentially a bright spot of this classroom, what we're going to now explore is what did the teachers do, and what enabled the students to grow in this specific regard. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to share again 3 to 4 artifacts that highlight teacher actions, and we will try and break down what do we think the fellows did in order to enable the students to grow in literacy. Okay, again, so we're going to do a similar thing. I'm going to share links in the chat box. I'm going to give us, because there are more artifacts this time, I'm going to give us 10 minutes to explore all of these artifacts and identify what were the teacher actions that led to these student outcomes. Make sense? Okay, sharing the links in the chat box. The links are in your chat box. Let's come back at 6:05 with our reflections on what we think what teacher action, how did these teacher actions enable the students to in literacy. If you have any questions, please type them in. 10 minutes. Thank you. Please let me know once you're done. You can chat in. You have explored the resources and identified. So Gaurav, I've actually we are exploring some artifacts right now. I'll just give you a quick update of what we've done so far. So we've identified what led to the literacy growth in this classroom, and for that I've shared certain artifacts for all of us to explore. I'll type it again so you can also see them.
Yes, we are done. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. What we'll do now again is would love for all of us to share what teacher actions did you identify that you think enabled students to make the literacy growth that they did in this classroom. You can either type that in or you can unmute yourself and share with the entire group.
Okay, so what I see, like I have noted down three, four things which I have seen within those artifacts. First, I see a gradual in the first artifact. I saw like a clear gradual change of process and methods. Like first, they started with making connection to the cells, and then to the city, and like step by step, they have changed their methods and it was a gradual process, so it was not it was easy for the students also to understand and process the information. And I saw a lot of opinion writing happening, and uh, when I say opinion writing, for opinion writing we need a lot of critical thinking skills, which was happening with use of visuals, a lot of like mm, times they were seeing things and they are writing. So those things also were there. Also, I saw goal setting and reflection in terms of academics and VNM also. So this were the teacher action I could understand, which actually I think helped student uh, grow and reach where they exactly were.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Pratay, would love to hear from a couple of more people. Again, you can type in your responses or just unmute yourself. Which of the teacher actions, according to you, um, led to these student outcomes. Keep an eye on the chat so that you can read what everyone else is also typing in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my reflections on when I was studying this classroom. What specific teacher actions do we think led to the students to this specific student outcome, right? We're not looking at teacher actions as a whole. We're looking at which fellow interventions led to growth in literacy of this classroom specifically. I've identified 3 buckets. I'm sure when you were also exploring these artifacts, you have seen this come alive in various capacities. I'm going to take a few minutes and break them down for you. At any point, if you have any questions regarding these enablers, please feel free to type that in, and I will take any questions after that. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first teacher action of having students set their own goals. You must have seen that in an artifact. What it says, what this does is 2 things. It helps students build a sense of I can and I want. This is the goal that I have set for myself as opposed to a goal that somebody else has set for me. So instead of my teacher telling me you want to make growth in your reading levels by 0.5, I'm setting a goal for myself. So it increases student investment towards the work they're doing, and hence this is one of the intervention that a, one very specific teacher intervention that has led to this very specific student outcome. Okay, the second practice that worked in this classroom and led to these bright spots was the idea of student practice in class and the strategy of annotation. I'm going to take a minute and break this down for all of us. So the concept of student practice was the fellows focused on students practicing in the classroom as opposed to giving homework and students working after class. There was a lot of emphasis on learning by doing in the classroom. And the second skill very specifically used in this classroom across content was annotation. Again, you must have seen in the artifacts that when students are reading, they're writing their comments via symbols, on the reading passage itself, as opposed to a normal strategy of read first and then answer questions, right? What this does, it helps students comprehend as they're reading. Um, it helps them understand as they're reading. It also helps them make connections to self, world, community as they're reading, right? So this is one very specific strategy that led to growth in RC and writing in this classroom was students practicing in class, emphasis of that, and the strategy of annotation in class. So this is a strategy that was used in English, SST science, so on and so on, right? So the 2 strategies that we discussed: students setting their own goals, student practice and annotation. And thirdly, again, you must have seen students reading a lot in the classroom. When students are exposed to a variety of literature, it builds the love for reading. So students in this classroom are not only reading their own textbooks, they're reading a lot of stories, which helps build a love for the language. Once students develop a love for the language and a love for reading, it accelerates growth in literacy and writing. Yeah, we'll pause and synthesize what the exercise essentially that we've followed so far. We started with identifying a bright spot in this classroom that was growth in literacy and writing. We then explored artifacts to identify what did the teachers do to build towards this outcome. And we identified 3 things: student setting goals, student practice and annotation, and reading authentic literature in the classroom. I'm going to give us 30 seconds in case there are any questions to type them in, and then we'll move on. Now we're going to repeat the same exercise for identifying another student outcome and teacher enabler. For that, I'm going to show you a few minutes of a student interview of this classroom. As the students are speaking, I want you to again identify what outcome can you see, what are students saying, doing and believing, and what outcome can you identify as you're hearing the students share about their classroom. Hopefully, most of you have seen this video before. If not, then that's fine. Give me 10 seconds. I'm just going to play this video. I'm going to play a few minutes of this student interview. Please identify which student outcomes can you see come alive as you hear the students share about their classroom.
Behave with them like a friend with them or don't abuse them. In class, the teamwork is the most highest value because we does all the things in team. In our team, there is 6 people. We give each other one chance to do. Whenever Didi asks some questions and we don't understand, we didn't raise our hands, but Saqib raises hands, and whenever we have group discussion in RC paper, he explained us very nicely. Because of that, today in our class 12% are on 5.5 and only 1% below 0.5. The changes I have seen in Ume that last year she used to be very scared because she is new. Now she is not scared, and if someone got hurt in our team, she goes, she help. Like example, me and my partner fight a lot because he don't listen what I say, and she comes, she solve our problem that we don't fight in little because we are partner. That I can help. That's why he is sitting with me. I have seen Samira change. Then last year she used to fight with each other, but this year she is more calm and she tried to help her partner. Tosif had got more change I have seen in him by Samira. Without communication, we cannot do anything. So, from communication, we help each other. We tell the meanings. If we communicate with each other, they can solve our problem. What we are hiding in our mind. That's why it is important to be communicate with each other, not as teacher, not as mother's father or parents, but we need to communicate with someone that we are trusting more than other people. Last year we have one problem box. If we have any problem,
Okay. Again, I'm going to give us a few minutes to just type in what were you seeing students say to believe in that interview, and what student outcomes do you see get highlight as you are watching that video. Please type in your responses, and then we'll come back in a minute. What were some common things that you saw the students talk about? Was there a trend or a connection you were making in the reflections that the students had? Yes, perfect. Please type that in and then you can read each other's responses. Okay, this is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody. Now I'm just going to give you a quick glimpse of the fellows' reflection to help us identify what were the student outcomes exactly. Chintaya, can I request you to read that for us, please, if you can? Okay, Pratya, do you want to read that for us, please?
Yeah, sure. Uh, our students believe our students believe that there is partnership between their teachers and themselves. For the first half of last year, students worked largely for themselves, fought with each other, and complained about each other all the time. Students now believe that success is when the entire group or class improves and not just themselves. This was clear to see when the class got 10 new students at the beginning of this year. Our students welcomed them into their groups, spent extra time teaching them reading and math operation, and getting them up to speed with everything.
Thank you so much for sharing that, reading that for us, Pratya. So, as a lot of our reflections were also a lot of the culture in the classroom is around a community and teamwork and talking to each other and communicating to each other and problem solving together. And hence, that was an outcome that you can see will come out very strongly in the student reflections as well as the teacher reflections. The second bright spot that we identified in this classroom. Again, we're going to repeat a similar exercise. I'm going to show you artifacts of teacher inputs. I'm going to give you a few minutes to study these artifacts and identify what did the teachers do to enable this classroom culture. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to type in the artifacts. Let's take another 5 to 7 minutes and identify what actions led to these outcomes. And whenever you're done, you can let us know.
Hafsa, we are done. Can we quickly share?
Let's give everyone else a minute also.
Sure, ठीक है. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. We can now again unmute ourselves and share what teacher actions we think led to a very specific outcome, which was the culture of community in the classroom and teamwork. If you're more comfortable typing, then please feel free to type in your responses.
Do we have to type or can we just share?
You can share.
Okay. Okay. So I saw 2-3 things which I liked so much. Like since there like in the student outcome there were a lot of teamwork and effective communication. The teacher action which helped this I think that they had a very clear group structure in the classroom, and they had a group wise goal setting, and it was very like weekly, and very short term and long term goals were there. And I think the teachers created a ecosystem of support where they know each other, and they know when someone is in need, they can help each other. So that was quite visible from the teachers action.
Pratik, can I ask you a quick question? So you shared that the teachers created an ecosystem where the students knew if somebody was facing a challenge or a problem. Can you tell me specifically what action did they take to create this ecosystem? Or this is open to anyone, if anyone can tell us. So we know the students knew each other's problems and they knew each other's challenges. What exactly did the teachers do to create this environment?
I think the teachers like push the students to reflect on their actions, maybe. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. What um, what I'm going to do is again I'm going to show you very specific teacher actions that led to this specific student outcome, and I'm going to try and be um, as particular about the evidence that I'm sharing, so that this you can take this practice back to your classrooms. So there are three things again that I identified when I was studying this classroom. You can take a minute to read it as I share as well. The first one that I identified was an emphasis on student work time. So all the entire classroom, the entire day was structured around students working together. So the classroom, there was no individual, there was rarely an individual task a student had to do in this classroom. There was a lot of emphasis on a group task, right? So that builds a culture of we all have to do this together. I have to make sure everyone in my team is participating and contributing and understanding and growing, because there's a culture of everything that's happening in the classroom. Any task, any problem, any lesson is centered around students working together, right? So that builds that culture of we all need to work together in the classroom. And another structure for the same piece was something called the math mentors. So a lot of the topics in math, all the new topics, so to say, the math teacher taught in class. Any revision or reteaching or reiteration or any doubts that the students had, each group had a math mentor, and the math mentor had the responsibility of clearing these doubts. Yeah, so I think that these two specific actions creates an emphasis of we all need to work together in this classroom. It's not if I understand and if I complete my work, it's not enough. I need to ensure that everyone in my team understands this concept, everyone in my team is participating, because it's a group task, right? So a lot of emphasis on group tasks and collaboration um, is the first intervention that led to the student outcome. The second intervention is what the teachers at this classroom call the circle of trust. Essentially, this is a student LC, which I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with. What the circle of trust did was it created a space in the classroom for the students to really understand each other, to understand their lives beyond the classroom. It created a space where students could be vulnerable and share their problems. So I know that if my peer is acting a certain way today, I know that they've been struggling at home or something is happening and hence they're feeling this way. So it really helps the students understand each other more. And that creates a culture of community of this is my friend, I care about this person, so on and so forth. So hence the structure of a student LC, or as the class called it, the circle of trust, right? Because and you can see directly how the value of trust and vulnerability and sharing my problems leads to a feeling of teamwork and community in the classroom. And the third, and I think the most interesting thing that I learned from this classroom was a sense of integration. So this classroom, a lot of the students participated in a project called Just for Kicks, which is essentially football. A lot of the students in this classroom are playing football. What the teachers did is they collaborated with the coaches of Just for Kicks. If you have time and you're exploring some of the artifacts in this classroom later, I would recommend you explore two artifacts. Explore the teaching video of Amalya. So what they were learning in that day in English was they were reading a passage about sacrifice and friendship. Yeah, so that's what they learned in English that day. After school, and all of them went and played. When all of them had football practice, at the end of the football practice exercise, the coaches also debrief the students on how do you think you made a sacrifice for your peers today when you were practicing, or how do you think somebody else made a sacrifice for you. So a lot of integration in this classroom. So football or any other sport, as you know, builds a lot of teamwork and collaboration. They made sure that it was integrated with the classroom culture. So the students knew that I'm not only showing teamwork and collaboration on the field, I'm also showing it in the classroom when I'm learning. Yeah, so again, to synthesize this for all of us, we saw that a bright spot in this classroom was the culture of teamwork and collaboration. The three teacher actions that we've identified that led to this was making sure that all the learning in the classroom is happening through groups. So all the tasks are centered around students working together. Student LCs to create a space of trust and vulnerability amongst the students. And lastly, integrating any extracurricular, in this case, football, with the classroom. Okay, again, I'm going to pause, give you a couple of seconds to synthesize and type in any questions that you might have. Okay, since we have no questions, I just want, before we end the call, I just want to reiterate the exercise that we followed today, and hopefully you can follow a similar exercise as you're exploring not only other TIJ classrooms, but also hopefully you can practice this similar exercise for your own classrooms. Essentially, what we spent time doing was we started with looking at a classroom and identifying what are the bright spots in terms of student outcomes. And then we backtrack into saying, okay, what teacher actions led to this, right? What I hope this has illustrated for you as well, and this is one of the reasons we do the TIJ learning group as well, is these are things that don't seem too daunting. These are most of the practices. I'm sure you're doing very similar practices in your own classroom or have done in the past. There might be practices that fellows are doing a little bit differently. but essentially this is a form of our own internal research to identify classrooms that have similar contexts as our similar challenges as we face in our own classrooms. What is working in these classrooms, and how can we learn from these practices and adapt them to our own needs. Another great thing I feel, and this practice I hope you do for your own classrooms as well. I'm going to take a shot at answering a question that we received earlier. Was think about how I can replicate the same mental exercise for my own classroom. So for example, if I see my students are very interested in X and Y lesson, but they're not as interested in certain other lessons that I'm teaching. Instead of my approach being, okay, my students are not interested in this lesson, I need to change it, or I need to do better, or I need to learn more strategies, etc., etc., etc. Can I pause and think about, okay, I see my students being very interested and passionate and hardworking in a certain kind of lessons. Can I pause and identify what am I doing as a teacher that's enabling my students to be interested and passionate and hardworking in these lessons, and then can I replicate that practice for my other lessons as well. So I hope you will take this framework and use it for your own classrooms as well, and let me know how that goes. So yes, so essentially we explored two student outcomes and what enabled them in Amalya Ravela's classroom. There are a few other outcomes from this classroom, a few other bright spots that we did study, but I wanted to, since it's the first call, I wanted to take it easy and just explore two student outcomes. But if and when you find time, please take some time and explore the other TIJ classroom profiles and do a similar exercise of bright spots and inputs, and see how you can adapt them to your own classroom needs. I hope I've been able to break down these practices for you so they don't seem like alien unicorn things that some teachers and some classrooms are doing. Really simple teacher actions. I'm confident most of us have either heard of them or have actually tried them in our own classrooms as well. I'm going to request us to end this call with a 3, 2, 1. I'm going to request everyone to unmute themselves and share. If you can't, please type it in. 3, 2, 1, essentially 3 thoughts or 3 new ideas that I have right now, 2 questions, and 1 thing that I would like to try in my own classroom. Yeah, let's take 2 minutes and then we will share with the group. Thank you. Okay, whenever anybody's ready, please share your.
Yeah, we are ready.
Go ahead.
Okay. So 3 thoughts which I have. So thoughts are like I could see that how teamwork can actually push the student performance in a classroom, and which from my classroom experience so far also I can understand that. The second thing, that strong teacher actions can actually lead to strong student performances, and trust and vulnerability inside a classroom can take a lot of uh, strong student actions. the like two questions, actually one question which I have right now is, since I am teaching a secondary classroom, basically ninth and 10th, and providing that fact that we have very less time inside our classroom, even finishing our syllabus, how we are going to do this for a secondary classroom, and that's the question I have. And one thing surely I'm going to try is the circle of trust. Already I'm doing social emotional learning circles inside my class, which we call student LCs, but I would surely try this two activities. One is circle of trust, and the second one is that behind my back activity. Yeah, that was my 3 to 1. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Pratik. So happy to hear your reflections. Kiran, you want to share with us as well, please?
Okay, I would go. Three thoughts in top of my head is like being consistent in doing what we do, making the students aware of what all vision we have for them, and then not only setting goal, because I also have this goal setting thing in my class, but I really don't reflect. So I think this is what I need to do. And not really any questions I have, but one thing, I do have a circle of trust in my class that is also running very well. And one thing I'm missing out is RC tracker, which I saw was really helping the students realize that what they are right now and how they need to improve. And also appreciating like their group names they had, and they were writing their long term short term goals. So all these things I would like to try this RC tracker and this long term short term goal thing. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your reflections. Again, all the classroom profiles and the studies that we've done over the past 7 years via TIJ is up on the T for India ecosystem. So, Pratik, for you also specifically, if, for example, you're a 9th and 10th teacher and you would like to explore a 9th and 10th classroom, then we have studied 9th and 10th classrooms in the past. We studied Sanjana, Shani, and Pallavi's classroom, so you might want to explore those classrooms as well.
I think Radhika's classroom also. It's a grade 10
Radhika's.
classroom.
Yes, yes, Radhika's classroom as well, absolutely. So yes, I hope this exercise, you've learned some concrete things that you can apply to your own classrooms. And I also hope that,
Surely I'll do that.
yes, and I hope you'll also use the bright spots theory and the lens for your own student outcomes and teacher practices. We will be in the new year. We'll continue to explore classrooms like Amalya and Ravela's in the future. So please feel free to join us and recommend it to your LC members. That's all from my end. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Hafsa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kiran.